Alex Krycek was an operative for the Syndicate and briefly a special agent within the FBI. He was killed by Walter Skinner in 2001. Little is known about Krycek's early life or education, other than his parents were Cold War immigrants and that he was consequently fluent in Russian. Also, at some point, the cigarette smoking man had gotten contact with him and hired him as an undercover agent for the FBI. In 1994, Alex Krycek, secretly working for the cigarette smoking man, was assigned to investigate a case with Special Agent Fox Mulder, who, along with his former partner Dana Scully, had been recently reassigned to the X-Files after the death of Mulder's informant, Deep Throat. Krycek learned that Mulder had requested permission to investigate the death of Dr. Saul Grissom, who had apparently died in a fire, although no evidence of the blaze had been found. Claiming he had opened the file on Grissom's death 2 hours before Mulder had requested the case, Krycek worked with Mulder to investigate the death, eventually discovering that Augustus Cole had murdered both Dr. Grissom and Henry Willing by using an extremely powerful suggestive ability. Ultimately, Krycek helped save another of Cole's potential victims before killing Cole himself. As he had been working on the case, Krycek had met Scully and had implied to Mulder that he had followed his work while training at the FBI Academy. He secretly reported back to the cigarette smoking man that reassigning Mulder and Scully off the X-Files had only strengthened their determination, and that Scully had seemed to be a considerable problem. In 1995, Krycek was assigned by the cigarette smoking man to kill Mulder's father, William Mulder, a former Syndicate member. Complying with his orders from the CSM, Krycek waited in the bathroom of Bill Mulder's house and then shot him in the back, before fleeing through a window and evading capture. Following his success, he went to Mulder's apartment to kill him, but Mulder ambushed him, beat him, and then held him at gunpoint, demanding to know whether he had killed his father. Before he could kill Krycek or find the answer, Scully arrived and shot Mulder to preserve his innocence, allowing Krycek to escape. Shortly thereafter, Krycek and his partner were ordered to kill Dana Scully. After establishing that she would be at the house, they arrived early and prepared to kill her once she arrived home. However, her sister, Melinda, arrived at Scully's house first. Consequently, she was accidentally shot. Krycek, realizing the error once he viewed the body, quickly fled the scene with his partner. Shortly thereafter, Krycek, along with Cardinal and another operative, assaulted Walter Skinner in the stairwell of the hospital where Melissa Scully had been taken and was being treated. After fighting with Skinner, Krycek managed to steal the digital tape that Mulder had received. Before fleeing, Krycek miraculously continued to punch Skinner and left him bloodied and unconscious in the stairwell. Krycek was unaware, however, that the Syndicate was most displeased with his actions. In response to their reaction, the cigarette smoking man arranged for Krycek to be killed by his partners, along with the tape, wherein the three assassins stopped at a petrol station. Lewis Cardinal and the third man left the vehicle, but Krycek noticed their suspicious behavior and a flashing clock time and escaped from the car bomb that was intended to kill him. He then called the cigarette smoking man from the airport and informed him, in no uncertain terms, if another attempt was made on his life, he would reveal all he knew to the public. Krycek would remain underground on the run from the Syndicate until an unexpected reunion with Mulder. He waited in the office of a Hong Kong company, and when Geraldine entered the room with Mulder, Krycek pulled his gun. In the resulting struggle, Krycek threw Geraldine into the hallway outside the office and shut the door, trapping Mulder and Geraldine, as they were still handcuffed together. When men in suits arrived and murdered Geraldine, Krycek escaped out the window and ran off into the night. Russian Syndicate, leaving Mulder to be worked to death in the Gulag. Krycek took up a position of some prominence within the camp's hierarchy. While speaking with the Glasses Man, Krycek was attacked by Mulder, who took him hostage and drove away in a truck. After traveling some distance, Krycek jumped clear of the truck, injuring his arm in the process. As he made his way through the forest in an attempt to return to the camp, he was ambushed by a large group of one-armed partisans. He told them that he was an American who had been accused of spying, and that he had been a prisoner at the Gulag. In response, they offered him protection. Waking in the night, Krycek grabbed by the partisans and had his left arm amputated by a hot blade as a precaution against the use of the black oil. Returned to the Syndicate. After striking a deal with the well-manicured man, Krycek briefly conducted some work on behalf of the Syndicate. Krycek was assigned by them to bring the cigarette smoking man out of retirement and escort him back to them so that the cigarette smoking man could conduct an operation after the Syndicate. In 2000, the cigarette smoking man managed to have Krycek thrown into a Tuscan penal colony. However, the CSM later sent Mulder to retrieve him. When a UFO crashed in Oregon, the smoking man wanted Krycek to help Mulder to retrieve the spacecraft before Mulder could, so that the Syndicate project could be restarted. Krycek traveled to Oregon in search of the spacecraft but was unsuccessful. Returning from Oregon, Krycek met up with Mulder and personally contacted Mulder at FBI headquarters to inform him that the smoking man was actually dying and that the conspiracy was therefore ending with the cigarette smoking man. The death of Krycek. With Skinner in the hospital, Mulder and Doggett tried to find out more about Rohner, but were unsuccessful. As they returned to the FBI building, Mulder saw Krycek driving into the parking garage. Mulder and Doggett followed Krycek, only to discover that Krycek's passenger was none other than Noli Rohner. Doggett followed Rohner into the FBI building, leaving Mulder to watch Krycek in the parking lot. To Doggett's further shock, he learned that Rohner was meeting with FBI agent Gene Crane. Doggett found Skinner, released from the hospital, in Skinner's office, and they phoned Mulder. After learning that Rohner was meeting with Agent Crane, Mulder deduced that Krycek, Rohner, and Crane were involved in the alien conspiracy and were simply trying to fool Mulder, Doggett, and Skinner into thinking that they could protect Scully. Mulder was certain that the aliens knew where Scully was and demanded that Doggett tell him her location so that he could go get her. Mulder, however, had taken away his attention from Krycek, who appeared out of nowhere to smash Mulder's car window with a prosthetic arm and ripped Mulder's cell phone out of his hand. With his gun drawn on Mulder, Krycek lamented that after years of hoping that Mulder would succeed against the alien conspiracy, he now had no choice but to kill Mulder. Mulder refused to accept any of Krycek's claims to righteousness, however, bluntly telling his nemesis that Krycek's only goal had been to save himself. At the last moment before Krycek could pull the trigger, Skinner arrived and shot Krycek. Krycek screamed and fell over. Skinner shot him again, as Skinner appeared to take deep satisfaction in finally winning revenge against the man who had tormented him for years, most notably the use of nanotechnology. Krycek tried in vain to grasp his weapon with his prosthetic arm, and upon falling, he attempted to convince Skinner to shoot Mulder instead, stating that it would take more bullets than you could ever fire to win this game. He claimed he could give Skinner 1,000 lives if he were to shoot Mulder. After a brief glance in Mulder's direction, Skinner shot Krycek one last time, this time directly in the head. Krycek uttered something inaudible after he was shot, and with his last ounce of life, turned to Mulder, keeping his eyes fixed on Mulder as he fell to the ground, dead.